All right.
All right. Well, hey, Claire.
Hi, Todd.
It is our last episode before Necronomicon. Not our last episode ever. And we are here to talk about A, Necronomicon, but also B, The Thing in the Moonlight by H.P. Lovecraft and J. Chapman Miske, actually. So he is a co-author. He wrote the bracketing story around it, and this was derived from a letter that Lovecraft had written to someone who's not J. Chapman Miske, which is a little weird.
When did Lovecraft die? Before or after this was written?
Well, he died after it was written, but before it was published.
Did he have any say in this?
No.
Okay. Because I guess I feel like you can't really be called a co-author if without the permission of the other person.
It was the 40s.
Yeah, that's true.
It was first published in Bizzare magazine in the January 1941 issue. And Bizzare magazine had exactly one issue. It was the January 1941 issue. And it had 22 pages. And this was one of them. And so this was a story written by... It was basically communicating a dream that he had. This one weird dream that he had to his friend, Donald Wandrei. Now, I didn't know who Donald Wandrei was because I'm a terrible Lovecraft scholar. So I looked him up. Would you like to know who Donald Wandrei was?
Sure.
So he is the co-founder of the Arkham House publishing company, along with August Derleth. And he was a contemporary of Lovecraft's. He was friends with him. And then I came across this amazing story on Wikipedia about him. This is just quoting Wikipedia here. Wandrei started writing in 1926, and his writing career took off around 1932. In late 1927, he hitchhiked from Minnesota to Rhode Island to visit H.P. Lovecraft.
Did he know him?
Apparently, yeah. They had been corresponding.
Oh, okay. All right.
Lovecraft conducted him on a grand antiquarian tour of Providence, and then on to similar tours in Boston, Salem, and Marblehead. How nice is that? This is the best part. There was also an excursion to Warren, Rhode Island, later made famous by Wandrei's reminiscences in the Arkham House volume Marginalia, during which Wandrei, Lovecraft, and James Ferdinand Morton each sampled 28 different flavors of ice cream at Maxfield's Ice Cream Parlor.
Okay. I worked, my first job, real job, was at a Baskin Robbins.
Right. This is why I thought of you.
Those motherfuckers.
28
Three times.
3 times.
People would come in and joke all the time, oh, maybe I'm just going to sample a little bit of each one. And we're like, ha, ha, ha. No, you're not, asshole. And these guys did it.
These
wow.
guys definitely did it.
Oh, my God.
You're a monster.
Now, the third of their party is James Ferdinand Morton,
yes,
who we have not mentioned yet. I did not know who this was, and so I had to look this dude up. And apparently, he was an anarchist and political writer that was friends with Lovecraft. His number 1 issue was a simplified tax system. His number 2 issue was combating racism, and he was on several committees for the NAACP,
What?
and he's buds with Lovecraft. Which is amazing. Hey, sci-fi brings all types, I guess.
All white men together.
Yeah. He sounded like a really cool dude. He was really into women voting and
okay, I don't care. Anything cool that he may have done was erased by his going in and tasting all 28 flavors of the ice cream.
That is a crime against humanity.
Yes. God. I wish if I had any kind of creative bone in my body, I would write a horror story from the point of view of that person working at the soda jerk at that ice cream place.
Yeah. I kind of want, so are you familiar with the Midnight Society?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes. Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Pals. Created by Bitter Corella.
I want a Midnight Society version of this encounter in the ice cream store. So yeah, I thought it was adorable. Of course, you have to take it from the point of view of the employee that had to deal with these guys. Let's talk about the Thing in the Moonlight. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this really made me think of like how famous or rich do you have to be for people to start caring about your dreams? Because, when it's like, right. Oh my God, I had this crazy dream. The person that you're telling it to is like, I'm just going to pretend. I'm going to not. Wow.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah. Nobody cares but the person that had the dream.
No.
Unless apparently you get to a certain status level or something.
I guess if you're a notable horror, science fiction, weird fiction author.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand what was the purpose of him? Why wouldn't they just publish the letter? Why did he write the story? The story is
it doesn't make
basically
a lot of sense.
Word for word of the letter. I mean, there are some changes, but not really.
He was the editor of a prestigious fanfic magazine that ran one issue.
He's not alive anymore, right?
I don't.
He's not going to show up at Necronomicon and yell at me for.
I mean, he published this in 1941. It's unlikely he's still alive.
Okay.
I haven't looked.
All right. Maybe there's a good reason for this, for him doing that, but they should just publish the letter.
I think he probably wanted to get his magazine off the ground. He had this scrap of paper from Lovecraft. He can put Lovecraft on the title.
Yeah, but you could just publish the letter.
You could. The story.
I'm going to take and publish, a letter from George Washington to Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
But I'm going to add 3 paragraphs and call it my story. Mm-hmm. call it Hamilton 2.
Right. Hamilton 2. Amazing. So the story starts, and this part comes from Miske, from someone who is not particularly fluent in English, and their name is Morgan. And they're like, hey, I'm writing this letter, and I'm having this dream where I'm a guy named Howard Phillips that lives at 66 College Street, Providence, Rhode Island. Now, great doxing, because that was actually Lovecraft's address in Rhode Island, which I guess people were a lot freer with back then.
Yeah, it probably, you couldn't just attack somebody on the internet.
No. And you can go visit his house today. That was at 66 College Street. I don't know how this works, but it moved. It is no longer at 66 College Street. It is now at 65 Prospect Street.
Oh.
How do you move a house?
Well, I mean, people move houses, but maybe it was like...
Does it not have a basement?
What's at 66 College Street now? Maybe,
nothing. There's nothing at 66 College Street. It was just taken over by Brown University or something.
Well, that's probably what happened. They probably moved the house or something.
I mean, you say this like it's no big deal, like you're a turtle.
People move houses.
I guess.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, it's not easy, but they do it. Do it historical.
Seemed weird.
But it is weird, but it's a thing that's done.
Okay. Well, okay, so he says this, and then he relates the dream. Mm-hmm. This is all Lovecraft here. And so in the dream, Howard, is in a swamp or something, and then he climbs up a cliff to a grassy plateau where he sees some rail tracks and then a haunted streetcar, I guess. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to get in the streetcar, and he does. And then he sees that the control lever is gone, because that's how you used to secure streetcars, is you take a piece of it with you.
This totally made me think of Todd makes fun of me for really liking these point and click iPad games or whatever, where you are on the, some of them are really good hide and seek games. Yeah. Not like ones where you're just pointing stuff out, but where you have to go and, the creme de la creme of them would of course be the Room series. And you have to, but this is totally what it reminded me of having to go and
it's a
you
genre,
stumble upon something in the woods.
It's a genre of video game where it's very iPad based, right? Mm-hmm. You're touching the screen a lot. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Myst, old-timey Myst.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you liked Myst, you will like The Room and related.
Most recent one that they had was the VR one, which that's the first one I ever did. And I was like, what? This is crazy. But I could only do a little bit of it at a time because I would get motion sickness.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. You had the Oculus.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it sounds
Claire,
like the plot.
The entire purpose of this podcast is for you to interrupt.
It's a dream come true.
All right. So he gets on this haunted streetcar, and then he sees two figures in the moonlight. The titular Thing in the Moonlight being one of them. And one of them gets down on all fours and howls. And the other one has a crazy cone head with a blood red tentacle.
It really does crack me up how this is turned into a story. Like that's the dream. You're like,
it's pretty much the whole dream.
Like that's it. But no, I like it because I like the way that it's just a thing that happened. There's no explanation. There's no, it turned out to be this, or it's just you're dropped in this, just like a dream. This crazy thing happens.
So the thing I like about the monster, the cone-headed trolley car conductor with the tentacle, is like it reminds me a lot of Pyramid Head from the Silent Hill series of video games.
Yeah,
if you're familiar at all with Pyramid Head, yeah, real weird and scary. I thought it was pretty scary. I thought this monster was scary. I tried to look up like, what is this monster? Is this monster called anything? Does it show up in like Call of Cthulhu or Arkham Horror or anything like that? Nope.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't find it. Listener, if you know what this monster's name is, this cone head, maybe it's just a cone head.
Conehead. The name is Conehead. We come from France.
Insert
mass quantities of beer.
Yes. Maybe it's a cone head after all. They're from France. And then he runs away. And then he runs into like a thicket or something, and he tries to like get through it. And on the other side, it's the streetcar again. And that's the horror of it all. He's stuck. He gets away. He ends up back in the same place.
It was.
He falls for it again.
Addition was unnecessary. I mean, like, it was creepy. And then, and then you have to like. But when you do something enough times, it becomes really boring. So I would imagine if this guy just has to keep doing this, wouldn't eventually you be like, Coney, you sir, excuse me, sir, are you the driver of this train?
You would think there'd be a little bit of a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of exercise there of like, well, I'm just going to eat a bunch of ice cream. I'm going to eat 28 flavors
of ice cream. 28. Oh my God, they thought they were living Groundhog Day. There would be no consequences to their.
That's it. That's the whole story. So what do you think? It's boring because it's somebody's dream.
For once, though, I like
it's short.
The Lovecraft thing, and not the. I mean, I thought the story was interesting, and then the letter was interesting, and then the story was just like, I'm going to throw in some extra paragraphs here. Yeah. Whatever.
And if you want to read them side by side.
If any family members of this gentleman are listening, I'm sorry. I should not have said anything about your grandpa. That was rude. I will stop.
No. Grandpas don't get off easy on this podcast. We stick it to Peepaw.
No, I did. I liked it. I don't know. It was a good creepy dream.
It was a great creepy dream. Like, I'm sure I've had a dream very similar to this. I think everyone has. And which brings me to a new game I'm introducing on the podcast. Are you ready, Claire?
Yes.
We're going to indulge in a little oneiromancy. Do you know what that is?
Okay. Neuromancy, like neuromancy. Okay, I was going like that's William Gibson,
right? But that's neuromancy.
Okay, neuromancy, is that an Irish neuromancer?
It is. It's Callahan neuromancy. No, a neuromancy, which I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the study of dreams and dream interpretation. All right.
Okay.
First off,
I'm not a person who believes in this kind of stuff, though.
Right. Me neither.
I don't think it always. I think that it's.
But I have a source.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was going to interrupt again.
Go ahead.
About dreams. My favorite description of what dreams do is from Stephen King, from one of his books. I can't remember which one, but he was just talking about, the boys in the basement are just moving shit around.
Oh.
Like, and that's kind of what it is. It's like there's some stuff from your subconscious, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just stuff that you saw and maybe you're trying to process or whatever.
If dreams are so magical, how come you dream about Tetris after you play Tetris?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like when I would work a double shift waiting tables, I would go home and dream about waiting tables, and it was awful.
Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello, hello again. Shaboom, and hoping we'll meet again. Oh, life could be a dream.
Dream interpretation. Okay, Claire, what do you think a swamp represents if you have a dream of a swamp?
I would say like,
as this guy did.
You're stuck in something, a quagmire, so to speak, like Vietnam.
Absolutely right. To dream of a swamp represents issues or situations that feel stagnated or impossible to escape. Good job. You have a future in dream interpretation. Okay.
I couldn't sell it. I would not. I'm not good.
You do have to sell it. That is part of it. That is what people buy, is that part that you sell. Mm-hmm. Streetcars. If you have a streetcar in your dream, what does that represent?
Moving from one situation to another. You're in transit.
Close. To dream of a streetcar represents a direction in life that is certain and irreversible.
Oh, because it's on a track.
Because it's on a track, right?
Okay.
The situation where there's no turning around, or an experience that happens whether you like it or not.
Okay.
So that's what that means. I hope the listeners are finding this as fun as I had researching it. This all comes from dreambible.com, by the way.
Not advertisers.
Not yet. If the moon is a figure in your dream, as it is in this story, what does the moon represent, do you think?
I don't know. The moon's got to be like... the moon... I'm thinking of like moon and tides and like in and out. Like a mother or something? Like I don't know.
I think that's a little too specific for oneiromancy.
Okay.
To dream of the moon...
That's a problem.
To dream of the moon represents feelings about a situation that is becoming unusually more amplified with influences, intuition, or coincidence than you're used to.
Okay.
Because it's like the inconstant moon, I guess.
Oh, got it.
Like
all right.
Shakespeare. And then the last element of this dream that we're going to interpret for this guy is if you have a dream that has monsters in it. What might that represent?
Well, I guess you're probably afraid of all of the shit you got to deal with
when you wake up.
Yeah.
That is not the correct interpretation. I'm sorry, Claire. To dream of a monster represents an aspect of your personality.
Am I the monster?
That acts terrible towards others or is totally unfair. That's what monsters mean. And so Lovecraft has a lot of dreams
coming from
about
inside
monsters.
The house. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he's like subconsciously aware of his horrible racism. I don't know.
Could be. I don't know. Or just.
But yeah, so this dude had a dream, and this dude being Lovecraft, literally, and then in the story, figuratively, this guy named Morgan who dreams that he's someone named Howard Phillips.
No, he didn't dream it, did he? He just wrote it, right?
He wrote it, but that's the thing. He wrote it because in the dream, he is a guy named Howard Phillips who lives at 66 College Street.
Oh, I did not catch that. I thought he was just writing it. I didn't realize it was his dream.
Yeah. And supposedly he's still trapped there to this day.
Well, he just says he was alone the evening it happened. Suddenly an unconquerable urge to write came over him. And taking in pen in hand, he wrote the following.
Okay, so he got possessed by Howard Phillips.
Yes.
From beyond the veil of sleep.
Or down the street or whatever.
Or something. That makes more sense. Okay. I was wondering, like, well, if he's stuck in this dream forever, because that's the horror. How did he write it down?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, apparently he figured that he figured out that possession, so good for him. Yeah. So anyway, that was our segment on dream interpretation, where we covered swamps, streetcars, moons, and monsters. I would imagine real dream interpretation, like if you go to somebody, like they take these, they pick out 3 or 4 elements like that, and then they weave a little story around it, like you do with like tarot reading and stuff. And I like, tarot readers and palmists.
We are friends with one.
Palmisters.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too.
All that, but it's the showmanship that you're paying for.
Right.
Because you could just go on dreambible.com,
right.
Like who cares? That's free.
Yeah.
No, you need someone to dress it up and tell a little story around it. Well, I wonder if ChatGPT would be good at this.
Interpreting dreams.
Yeah, it's like you give it the 4 things and say, okay, now pretend that you're a dream interpreter and you're working at a state fair. And I've just paid you $10. What story do you tell me about my dream? I bet that would work out pretty well.
I suppose.
So here's the thing. I started reading Whispers in the Darkness, thinking, oh, I should read Whispers in the Darkness just before Necronomicon because it's a good story. It's one of my favorites. And it features the Migo, or the fungi from Yuggoth, which is, as you know, Claire, is the subject of our live show. I thought that would make a little nice layup, right?
Yeah.
But that story is too long. I started reading it, and I got 2 chapters in. I'm like, dang, how long is this thing? And I scroll and scroll and scroll. Oh, no, absolutely not.
Not gonna happen.
No, because we had to go out of the country.
Todd has been traveling a lot.
Yeah, so we just got back from Mexico City, which is amazing. You should go to Mexico City.
It
this
was great.
Message brought to you by the Mexican Tourist Board. It was super cool. We stayed in the Condesa neighborhood, which is very fancy and very affordable. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was cool.
But that trip is unimportant to you, dear listener. The trip that you care about is coming up, and that is our trip to Providence, Rhode Island for Necronomicon. Whereupon this very podcast, we will be recording live in the Black Box Theater, in the historic Black Box Theater, I assume, 95 Empire Street at 7 p.m. on Thursday, August 15th. Come see us and hang out with us and talk about the fungi from Yuggoth, a 36 sonnet series.
The fun guy from Yuggoth.
The fun guy from Yuggoth. Hey! No, we can't blow all our fun guy from Yuggoth jokes yet. We got to save them. We got to save them for the paying audience, because this is a ticketed event. Now, if you have a Necronomicon pass, which you should, you get them free. Otherwise, it's $10. And we will see you there, and we'll have lots of silliness going on there. And I just before we recorded this, I recorded the reading. And I think this is the first time, actually, I've ever recorded anything out of order. I'm going to release them in the right order, but I think this is the first time I recorded anything out of order. Anyway, that is happening. It'll be a great time. Claire, you look like you have something to say.
No, I'm excited.
You're excited?
Oh, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I mean, I'm nervous that there won't be anyone there, and I'm nervous that there will be people there.
Well, as it turns out, I got an email from someone that you may remember as Sean Patrick.
Hey, Sean Patrick.
Sean Patrick, who has not been listening to the podcast lately because he's been busy with a baby boy. Turns out he lives 15 minutes from Providence. And so he said he might come.
I understand. That's how it is when you have a baby. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what will be happening 5 minutes from now,
right.
let alone.
That is true. That is true. So hopefully he can find a sitter.
I could have poop all over me and be unable to leave.
I also heard that Zrader is coming to our show.
Wow.
So yeah, the 2 fans that we've ever talked about more than once. So be like Sean Patrick, maybe, and be like Zrader, probably, and come to our show.
No, come on
and
out.
Hang out.
I can't party that night after it's done.
Sure you can.
No, I can't.
You absolutely can.
No,
There's a whole party.
I gotta do the thing the next morning.
Well, see, this is the thing.
Yeah.
So we have a show Thursday night at Black Box Theater. Show up 7 p.m. And then Friday morning at, I believe, 9:15, we're in the kickoff panel for the Armitage Symposium, which is a very fancy, very highfalutin, snooty, dreary, dusty
Boy, are they
panel.
going to be sorry.
Yeah, panel group, and we're going to go blasting in there.
I can't show up and.
But
like
here's we're sharing the bill on this slot.
Yeah.
The slots are built a little weird, but we're sharing the bill with a guy who's going to talk about the environmental impact of the color out of space.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he's
like
a PhD in marine ecology.
Okay.
So it's going to be pretty wild. It's all scholarly stuff. And that's what you're in.
Okay.
because you do have an advanced degree.
I guess technically, yes, this is true.
And you're talking about your area of expertise, which is the law.
Right.
So anyway,
but that's big.
Yeah.
That's like, you wouldn't, well, anyway.
I don't think we ever even got to what you were talking about. So Claire Reynolds, Esquire, and Harley Geiger, Esquire, are going to be discussing Beyond the Bar, the law of Lovecraft, basically. And it'll be great. It'll be super fun.
Yeah.
And here's what we need from you, listeners. If you have any legal question relating to Lovecraft stories, Lovecraft role-playing games, Lovecraft board games, if you have a legal question.
Yeah, but not like, okay, so you were arrested for marijuana possession. Not saying this is me. This happened in a Lovecraft story. What would you do?
Don't phrase it. Don't ask actual legal advice.
Right, because I'm not given to give that.
If you're looking for a legal opinion, I know Harley had brought up one case where it's like, well, isn't the story The Dunwich Horror really about child endangerment because it's about the son of young Azathoth?
Yeah.
I'm like, interesting. That was one of the ones that we had kicked around. But, so something along those lines.
Yeah.
For example. And I firmly believe that if you are in a rut with your role-playing group and your Call of Cthulhu game, why not spice it up with a little courtroom procedural? Because, the law of the 20s and 30s is very different in the U.S. than it is today. I would say very different.
Yes.
There's been a couple.
Don't worry. We're trying to get back there.
We're going to make America the 1920s again.
And not in the good ways.
Not in the good ways. So anyway, send in your questions to hideous@pottsauthauth.club, and we will have them in our pocket. Maybe we'll even answer them. There's a fairly lengthy Q&A section associated with Armitage Symposium things, so if you show up, you can ask your question in person, but I'm just trying to hedge against no one asking any questions.
Right. That's fine. We'll have material. And by answer, I don't mean give an accurate legal answer.
Oh, no.
I just mean like...
No. You are one of the most studied Lovecraftian lawyers in the world. In the world.
I don't know.
I'd say you're top 10.
I don't know. I bet there are
are
lots of lawyers who are really into Lovecraft.
But are they also into
There are
lawyering?
dozens of us.
No. How many of them have podcasts? That's a big fat 0. So you are already on the upper strata. I will say that we have slipped, Claire.
No.
So, and that is mainly the listener's fault because you guys have not been giving me the 5-star reviews I keep asking you for. So,
what if all of them have though? That's just the problem.
No.
There's only 50.
I got email, in fact, from someone named Kris from Minnesota. And Kris from Minnesota writes, basically, like, they've been listening for a long time. They really like the show, blah, blah, blah. And not blah, blah, blah. Like, I do actually appreciate it, and I really do. But he ends it. The reason why I bring it up is because he ends it with the line, anyway, this summer is so hot, it feels like Cthulhu's butthole. And I'm like, what is... So, Claire, I don't know if you're familiar with Cthulhu. Cthulhu it's a mass of sentient fire.
Oh, okay.
that lives near the sun's corona.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's pretty, all right. Accurate, Kris.
Exactly.
Very accurate.
It's like, good pull on Cthulhu. Whether or not it has a butthole, scientists are still trying to determine this.
That's... See, this is what would happen if I showed up to like an Armitage Symposium on the biology of something. I'd be like, excuse me, I have a question. Does it have a butthole? And then they would escort me out.
Right.
Politely ask me to leave.
Well, if you have any butthole-related legal questions, please bring them up live and in person at the Armitage Symposium, which will be Friday morning, which is why Claire claims that she can't party that night, but she should and will. Just do it hungover. Who cares?
I'm not doing it hungover. I'm too old for that.
So that's it. We will see you at Necronomicon in just a couple weeks when this drops. That will be August 14th or 15th or something. I've already forgotten. But if you are going to go, you probably know by now that you're going to go.
Hey,
but
by the way, just a few days after my 50th birthday.
That's right. That's right. Between us, we will have over 100 years experience
of living,
of being, of
breathing.
Earth, of planet Earth.
Many of that we were useless, but
most of it, even.
Most of it.
But yeah, so we'll be there. Hopefully, you'll be there soon. For real though, give me 5-star reviews on our podcast so we can rise up from the we're way down. We're number 9 now.
What?
I know. Now, I will say that we got a reprieve because Learning Lovecraft was hot on our heels, and they have a similar show. They're newer.
Oh, but they were behind us, though.
But they were behind us. They're
Okay.
currently at 11.
Okay.
And they're now on hiatus. So we have a little bit of breathing room, folks. By the way, you should actually listen to Learning Lovecraft. It's pretty good.
We're looking at the guys ahead of us, though. We got to...
But anyway, please leave your 5-star review. Write in with your legal questions to get them answered by a real lawyer. And you can do that at hideous@podsawthuff.club, or you can follow us on defcon.social. By the way, I'll be at defcon as well. So if you run into me there, say hi. But defcon.social/@podsawthuff is us as well. And those are all the ways you get in touch with us. And you can touch us, like, consensually, if you ask first. if you run into us in Providence.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I mean, it's consensual.
Okay. I
Yeah,
know.
you gotta ask.
As a woman, I don't particularly want a lot of people asking me if they can touch me.
Okay.
Todd's fine with it.
I'm fine if you touch me. Don't touch Claire.
That's fine.
Even if she asks for it. All right. That's all.
All right. Stay out of those buttholes.
Stay out of those fiery buttholes.